Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I love your earrings.
Good. Oh, thanks.
Those are like big snowflake sort of.
they're, they're a little massive. Yeah.
I've never worn earrings, and I know guys can wear them, but I just don't understand the weight. Does it not start to pull?
You have to make sure that you get light ones, that they look heavier than they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it says
The
on my
heavy ones will
profile.
hurt.
So that's what it says on my dating profile. I look heavier than I am. Yeah, but no, I've always thought that the weight of that would like start to give you a headache or something.
No, I mean, if they're heavy, they just hurt. They pull your ears.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm getting accessories. I'm finding out more about accessories and learning things. Because I'm scared shitless to ever get an ear piercing. I'm like, I just don't think that. And the people who do like the eyebrows and the noses and stuff, I'm like, yeah.
The nose doesn't hurt.
Like through the cartilage?
I haven't had that one, just here.
That one doesn't hurt. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I respect it if that's what they want to do, but I just look at it and go, oh, I would feel pain. So.
Well, if you decide to, I will go with you and I will hold your hand.
We have vodka afterwards?
Yes.
So who do we have down here? Holt. What's your first name? You're muted. You're a woman of mystery right now.
Hi, I'm Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Hi, Coach Michelle.
Hello.
Coach Heidi on here.
Well, either way, I mean, it's still.
How's everybody doing?
I'm good. I had 2 closings this morning already, so. Been a day, let me tell you.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks. I had to back.
In a market that everybody else is like, oh, there's not enough inventory, you're kicking ass.
I know, and then I was trying to finalize my presentation, and a guy called me. He's like, "Yeah, I really think I need to list my house in June." I'm like, all right.
Okay.
Can I call you later?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'll take that call 7 times a day.
Absolutely. Yes. I have never used anything but what's it called? PowerPoint. And I have no idea how to download something from Canva to PowerPoint. So we're going to wing it today. And just,
okay, we're going to make it work. It's a make it work moment.
Canva.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Larissa.
Hi, everybody.
So where is everybody? I'm in Dallas. I know Heidi is in Florida and Michelle is in South Dakota for some reason. Where's everybody at?
Amen.
I'm in San Antonio.
Oh, welcome to Texas. Yes.
Hey.
I know
Mexico.
Jessica's on Colorado.
Lori, what'd you say?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay, cool. Jessica's where?
She's on the Front Range in Colorado.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like Fort Collins, which is an amazing city. My brother lived there for like 12 years. Loved it.
Okay. Cool. Well, winter has decided to rear its ugly head one more time, so we're back down into the 40s.
Yeah, we're gonna get like 12 inches of snow next week.
Okay, you win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't do that in Florida, so. We
I might be
shovel
calling
snakes.
you one of these days.
I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready. Mr. Bob, Coach Bob, did you see did you get a message from Steve Connolly?
Yes, and I want to talk to him about his site. I want to talk to him about it.
Okay, well, it'll be both of us.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
Because I switched.
To Sierra?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. You got away from,
And I'm going through that right now.
okay, we're going to talk about it. I've got some good ideas
Perfect.
for that.
No, I'm very excited. So I
Yeah.
would love for you. For
I
us
would
to be
actually
your
love the
test-
opportunity to look behind the scenes of a Sierra site so that I can have a
Let's-
merit badge.
You just tell me what you need.
Okay,
It's
we'll
yours.
work on that. You can have unpaid labor for, you can be like Kathy,
No,
Lee,
you
have all
know
your
I buy
suits
you
made.
dinner. I buy you dinner every time.
You don't have to. You don't have to. I'm
I
already
know I
fat
don't
enough.
have to, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Okay, this is Coach Michelle's hour, and we're gonna let her have it. Not let her have it, but we're gonna let her have it.
You can let me have it. Been that kind
Okay.
of week. So first of all, it is not going to take an hour. I know that so many of us are on so many Zoom calls and we all have appointments. So mine is more of like 15, 20 minutes with some time for questions, because I think that's rather than me just talking at you. I am not a financial advisor, so I may not be able to answer all your questions. I can speak from experience of working with clients who are investors and then being an investor myself. So with that said, of the people, hi Leslie,
Hi.
of all the people who are on the call so far, are any of you investors yourselves? Okay, pretty much. I can't see what Latrissa is, but that's a lot. Do you like how many properties do each of, I mean, is it like single family, or are you invested with other people? Just shout it out.
Bob wins.
At our peak, we had 6. We divested when my partner and I, we separated, but I had 6 at the time.
Okay,
I have one.
Mary,
I have a
Okay.
condo that I rent out.
okay.
Does it count if you bought a house for your children, so they're not in your house anymore, but they pay you rent?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
That counts.
I have a
That counts.
fourplex.
Don't live at my house
I bought
anymore.
about-
Patricia?
Kathleen, what'd you say?
I have a fourplex that my husband and I bought in 2018.
Okay.
Good for you.
How's it
And
going for you?
I was gonna say, I don't own
Great.
anymore. I'm looking to reinvest. I invest again.
Invest again. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about both why you should be investing yourself, but also why it's so beneficial to work with investors. I know Jessica, because she's my client, I know she works a lot with investors. And so, like I said, if somebody has something they would like to add or improve on what I'm saying, I am totally open to that. Just go ahead and start talking. I'm not probably going to be looking at the raise your hand thing. And if you have questions, just maybe interrupt me and I will happily let you talk. Okay. I'm going to share my screen so you can see my lovely presentation. So today I'm going to be talking about working with investors. Oh, I don't know why I'm getting the double. Does everyone need to mute maybe?
Try
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Somebody
so
came
that's
on
a
and I
good-
had to mute them.
Okay. So anyone who was at Elite remembers this slide. Second place pays nothing in real estate. And since we're coming into a market with tight inventory, I think if you can find someone who's going to buy multiple properties, that's probably going to be your best bet, or at least you should be focusing it as one pillar of your business. I've got clients who bought, 3 properties in the last 3 years, and 2 days before this presentation texted me and said, I want to buy something in Florida. Heidi, maybe I should call you. And so I want to sell everything that I bought in the last 3 years. So it's like the gift that keeps on giving these people. So talking a little bit about difference of, does anyone here work with investors besides being one? Are a lot of you working with investors? Bob? Anybody? Okay.
Yes,
Melissa?
Leslie and Lori raised their hand
Okay.
too.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
So obviously the benefits, they're going to buy something, probably several in a year, or at least several or one a year, as opposed to a single family buyer who's going to buy one. I think the statistics say 3 to 5 years, and a lot of them a lot more than that. Another benefit, my investors anyway, and as an investor, I have zero emotion. If it makes money, it makes money. If it doesn't move on. And as opposed to a buyer from a residential perspective thinking, oh, this is where I'm going to raise my kids. I want to make sure that all of these things, it's a little bit of a different kind of conversation. Also, the numbers have to work based on profitability for an investor, and the numbers need to work for a debt ratio for your residential investor. So I can tell you that the investors that I work with, there are also the investors who are incredibly competitive and they want to buy it just because they want to beat somebody else to it. And they're betting on appreciation. They're not really focusing on the numbers that are right now. They're focusing on the numbers that will be eventually. And then lastly, no parents. I love investors because they don't bring parents with them. I hate parents. So there's many different types of investors. I broke it down to the 4. The pictures were already on the slide, so nobody be offended by who I chose for which. The newbie investors, I would call myself a seasoned investor or an experienced investor, meaning I've got multiple properties, but and then the high level syndicator. Has anyone here been part of a syndication before? Are you familiar with syndications?
Not really.
Okay. So a syndication would be you'd have a group that they'll identify a property, usually in Texas, and it's anywhere between 50 and 250 units. And obviously that's a lot of money for one person to try to invest in. And so once they've identified a property and done a little bit of due diligence, they'll go out and fundraise. And so if anyone's ever asked you if you wanted to be a 50%, like a $50,000 shareholder, you'd be a minority, you'd get like 1 share for that. And then you would have no voting rights, but you would be able to invest in it. And then there's usually like the lead investors who are usually between 1 and 10 people that might be contributing up to $1 million or more a piece. And they have the largest equity share and they have the voting capabilities. It's really high risk. If you're going to get into syndications, if anyone that you is asking about, should I do it? And they want you to evaluate it. I would be very cautious because nobody talks about the time when it's not fully rented and then there's a cash call. And usually in order to be a part of any of these, you have to be what's known as a sophisticated investor. And to qualify as a sophisticated investor to partake in a syndication, you have to have at least $1 million net worth, not including your own home. So in order to even give them your $50,000, you have to go through the whole process of vetting and making sure that you've got the net worth. They will include things like your retirement income. So it's not like you have to have $1 million cash sitting around, but if you have rental property already or investment property already, they'll consider that, like your 401k, they can consider. Anyway, but then if it's not, we had one here in Vermilion, I chose not to take part in it. And they had, for every investor, even the $50,000 investors, they've contributed since they closed on the property, every investor has committed at minimum $30,000 to the project. So you really have to know who you're getting into business with. I would be very cautious. And when they show you the pro forma, make sure if you don't understand how to read a pro forma, make sure that you find somebody who does. I will give you an example. This is the pro forma we did for an 18-unit townhome property. And as you can see, it's a lot more sophisticated than your normal. And then they had a 36 unit as well.
Oh my
And
God.
it literally covers everything. You can get spreadsheets like this from IREM.org. If you wanted to become more of a sophisticated investor and know a lot more about property management, you can join there. I think it's like $125 a year, and they give you all of these tools. But it's not for the faint of heart. Oops, excuse me. As for the types of investors, your newbie would be afraid of everything. I had one of these last year. They wanted to buy a triplex. It had been a rental for many, many years. And I told them, well, there's nothing about this that really scares me. I mean, it's old, so it's going to probably need a new sewer pipe eventually. And, I'm going on about the wiring, and you could just see their eyes just getting like really big. And you know how when you're showing residential people around, you say, are you an old house person or a new house person? And there's two definite distinctions there. It's the same with investors. Are you an old house person or a new house person? The thing, I don't even do home inspections when I buy houses anymore. Old houses that are just like single family, because I already know what I'm looking at. Other than doing a radon test, that's the only thing I do. But to a newbie, everything is a big deal. So be really cautious. And then they will also way underestimate the cost of repair. So if you've never done a home improvement project and you've never had, and the contractors sometimes don't even know, they don't tell them enough that, hey, once we start peeling back the layers of this onion, it could go up by $10,000, which when you're just getting into investing, you have a very tight margin. So I would caution anyone who's getting into it for the first time, maybe either go in with somebody else or choose a project that maybe is newer with thinner margins. You maybe don't make as much money at first, but at least you won't have that offset of cost. So the seasoned investor, being a few properties, they're going to take more risks. That's kind of me. And then which kind of goes up, that would be like your 3 to 5 properties. And then your experienced one, you can get like duplexes up to like 12 plexes really. And that would be, or even 32 units. I would call those an experienced investor. They might be getting into doing some partnerships just so that they can acquire more properties. And then like we talked about, your high level investor, which is a syndicator. You can either be the lead syndicator, in which case you bring all of the people to the property. You are the one who's doing the fundraising, and you usually get paid. I mean, it varies between 1%. You take part of the equity in the property as your payment, or you get paid $150,000 to run the syndication every year. And so it's a great way to sort of increase your income. But on the other hand, there's responsibility with that as well. And trust me, when they need cash calls, they're going to call you. So, and they will take care. They will be the one in charge of the pro forma, making sure the information is correct. They will get the lender and get all the people in place. So a little bit of help here from Phil M. Jones. If you end up working with an investor, I would say probably the best phrase that's worked for me is, this may not be for you, but any investor, there's a little bit of ego in it, I have to say. You know this by every time you see somebody talking about how many doors they have, which is a little bit annoying. But there's sort of this, competition to who can have the most doors. And so if you indicate to an investor that this 5-plex just came up, but it may not be for you, their ego is going to just bring them right to it. So, and then the other one is, how open mind would you be to, and then it could be looking at this house, but it comes with an extra lot, and you could build another 4-plex here. And, but this type of phrasing is really, really helpful. Has anyone used this on an investor? Anything like this? Jessica, have you? Is she still there? Okay.
I've done this may not be for you, but a couple times.
Did it work?
Yeah, he became immediately interested.
Yeah, it's just amazing how it works. And what really frustrates me is I know it's worked on me, and it kind of, I'm like, God, how did I fall for that? But I did.
I think it also
So-
works because even if they're not interested in that, it gives you a reason to reach out so they know that you're still the person to go to when they see something else they're interested in.
100%, 100% agreed. So when you're working with investors, no matter which type you're working with, and even the newbies, because they know just enough to be dangerous, is you need to know the market inside and out. If you come and show up to a meeting with an investor and you don't know what the average rents are for a single family home, for duplexes, for a 4-bedroom versus a 1-bedroom, for a view versus no view, lakeside, you need to know all of those things cold. And I looked for it right before I got on here, and I can't remember, is it Rentable? What is the site that all the Airbnb people use to know what the rents are? I know there's a website where it's free. Can anybody think of the name of it?
AirDNA.
AirDNA. That's one of them for sure. And it'll tell you what the rents are for both single family or for rent, and then also for short-term rentals as well. And then you're going to want to be really well versed in some terms that you'll hear from an investor. The first one is cap rate, which stands for capitalization rate. I'm not going to read all of this to you, but if my favorite way to use it is as a way to price a property. There's people who don't, I use it more of like a secondary way of doing it. So if I know a multifamily unit is going for $99,000 per unit and there's 7 units, then I can figure from an appraiser's point of view what it would do. But I like to go back to cap rates, and this is a deal analyzer that I have. Can you guys see that, or do I need to make it bigger? I'll make it a little bigger just in case you guys can't see it, maybe. Oh, guess not. Okay. So this basically figures cap rates in. So like in places like New York and Los Angeles and probably Dallas now, cap rates are really compressed. So they're down to like probably 4 or 3 in some areas, which means that it's got good potential, but it also means that the money is really tight. So if the gross potential annual income of a property is $145,000, you figure in 5% for vacancy. Some places do 10. So then it gives you your net annual income. And then if your expenses, which are your everything other than your debt service, basically your property management fees, your real estate taxes, if you pay utilities, all of those things. Let's just say it's 25%. So your net operating, or NOI, is $103,313. And let's just say your local cap rate is 6.3% for that. And by the way, trailer parks are going to have a different cap rate than an apartment complex, which is going to be different than a rental, like a single family rental. So cap rates are not universal to an area. So based on these numbers, though, this was said that you could sell this property for $1.6 million. But if it was, say, 5% cap rate, the number goes up to $2 million. Makes sense? And that formulation is your capitalization rate is your net operating income divided by the current market value. Okay. So if you know what the listing price is, and you know you've got a copy of the financials, and you know what the NOI is, then you can figure out your what cap rate they got it. And any good listing agent is going to know what that cap rate is. It's probably going to be on the brochure. Okay. The next one is cash on cash return. I hate this one, but there you go. That's the rate of return that calculates the cash income earned on the cash invested. And this is like, you guys are more than welcome to these slides, but this is the formula. And these are the things that play into the formula. Does anybody use cash on cash?
No.
I don't use it. The next term you're going to want to know is depreciation. Obviously, you know what straight line depreciation is on your house. I believe it's 28 years or 27 and a half years. So when you're considering what you're here, I'll use this. I'll move to this spreadsheet to show you. This is a investment tool I got from the group, Jessica. They called it their Wake Up Money Easy Investment Tool. So assuming a property of $250,000 you're putting down $50,000, which is 20%, which is typically what you're going to have to at 20 or 25, depending on the lender. Closing costs, initial renovation costs, because I always think there's always something you can do. I did it on a 30-year note for this example. I only put in 2.5% appreciation. I mean, obviously we've seen like 12, but I know that's going to slow down or go negative. And I figured 3% inflation. And after you put in for taxes, insurance, I figured 10% for property management and got the rents in at $22.75. And my vacancy rate is so low that I put that in, but let's just say you put in 5%. So then this is going to figure your monthly cash flow for you. So this is, the red is obviously what you got to pay for your mortgage and your property management. And so your monthly cash flow is $330.82. But as any good realtor will tell an investor, there are other things that are a benefit to you. So you've got your cash flow, you're making the $330 a month is going to equal $39.69 a year. And you put in, after you include the renovations, your closing costs, and your down payment, you put in $71,250. That's a 5.57 return on your money. The $39.69 is a 5.57 return. Then you've had the tenants reduce your debt by $2,343, and that's another 3.29%. And then you've saved on depreciation. If you did normal depreciation on a 27-year straight line, you'd save $7,870 on your taxes. And your property is going up 2.5%, so that's 8.77%. So if you figure all of those in, you're at a 17.63% return on investment. So you can see, if you show it to an investor this way, how it's a little bit more powerful. And you say, what are you getting on your savings account, or your, God, does anyone do CDs anymore? But your CDs. And this is going to continue to go up. And then you can show them the 5 and 10-year view on what you're getting for a return. So it tells you year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, what cash flow you're going to have, your debt reduction, and your appreciation on your property. And so if you wanted to sell it after 5 years, you'd know exactly what you had into it and how much money you'd collected. And then the same for 10 years.
That's
Make
amazing.
sense? I know, I love that spreadsheet. I use it all the time. Okay, so then there's cost segregation. If you were at Summit, you might have heard Tom talk about this a little bit. So in the Trump tax law, they did bonus depreciation, and I believe it ends this year. Does anybody know? Anyone? I think it ends this year. So in other words, what they were saying is you could do a cost segregation. You have to hire an engineering firm to come in and do it. And let's just say you bought like an 8-plex. What they're going to do is they're going to depreciate all of the items that have a shorter tax life. So like your carpets, your roof, everything but the land and some of the building. So they will reduce it to a much shorter period of time. So therefore, let's just say you were going to sell the property after 5 years. That was your goal. And you did a cost segregation study. I think it costs like $2,000 to do it. So you wouldn't do it probably for just one house, but if you had if you bought an apartment complex or a fleet of houses, then you can do cost segmentation and then collect the bonus depreciation, do it all in 1 year. So there's a couple guys that I know that bought a $15 million apartment building, and they did 100% depreciation the first year, and they paid $0 in taxes, and they're worth tons and tons of money. So if you're going to do it every year, it's a really great way to save on your taxes. A little bit more about it. These are the things that are reclassified, and they'll how your accountant will set your depreciation schedule. They'll just accelerate it for you. And these are the kind of things that they do. Again, flooring, wall covering, security systems, HVAC, all of the things that we know. So when you're just starting to work with an investor, I do property. I have a property management company as well, and I'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But one of the things that you want to ask is, what is your investment strategy? This has gotten me more business than anything else, asking this question, because it shows that you have a little bit more sophistication in your knowledge of the market. and that you're really not trying to just sell them a house and get a commission. You're trying to set them up to build wealth. And if you think about it from a wealth building place rather than a commission base, it's gonna help you immensely. And so you need to ask them, are you planning, when we took over management of this, it was 48 units. And I said, are you planning on holding on to these for a long time? Or do you want us to just do the basics, like, you know, the torn carpet gets replaced, maybe we zhuzh up the hallways with a little paint, clean up the parking lot, maybe chip seal the parking lot, get it rented, get the highest rents we can, and then list it and sell it. Because that's their best opportunity to make money if they want to sell it. Or is this a legacy property? Is this something, which is with the case of my client, they have 3 properties, he has 3 kids, like every kid's going to get a property. So he wants to keep these forever. So whatever he does, he's not going to put in a Menards light or Home Depot light. He's going to buy like a high quality thing. He wants to buy all of the faucets from a plumbing warehouse. He does not want to buy it from a big box store because he doesn't want any plastic parts. It's got to last. Does that make sense? Like he's going to put a 50-year shingle on it. And maybe they're just going to be fix and flippers. That's obviously a different conversation as well. And again, or the improve it, lease it up and sell it in 5 or 10 years. Has anyone dealt with that when they deal with a client? Hi, Caleb. No? Okay. So there's a couple different strategies that people will look at. I'm sure you're all familiar with biggerpockets.com. If you're not, write it down. Tell anyone who's ever interested in getting into investing, or if you want to know more about investing yourselves, biggerpockets.com is the absolute gold standard of where to start. They have 4 different podcasts now, I believe. They've got great tools that you can use to analyze deals. I think it's free, but if not, I think the pro membership is $15 a month. Quick story about biggerpockets.com. You can sign up to be an agent for biggerpockets.com, like as someone who works with investors. So once you feel more comfortable, this is the biggest life lesson I ever had in my life. I signed up to do it, but I didn't go back and check my portal. And I was 2 months late from someone in Colorado who said they had a client who wanted to sell a 15-unit apartment complex in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Would I be willing to list it? And I didn't get it because I didn't check my voicemail or didn't check my messages from Bigger Pockets. So if you're going to do it, make sure you're going to be on there regularly. But biggerpockets.com is the gold standard. Another great show to listen to, it's a podcast, is the Real Estate Guys radio show. And even though it says radio show, it is a podcast. They are amazing. They're great at explaining things. They always say no investor left behind. So you don't feel like I'm not a sophisticated enough investor to understand what they're talking about. They also do classes throughout the year where they do like the secrets of successful syndication is one of them. I've done it. They do an investor thing on an island in Belize. So you can go there and meet with other investors and learn how to buy property internationally. So anyway, great place to learn things. But anyway, you'll hear a lot on Bigger Pockets. They'll talk about the 1% rule. It used to be called the 2% rule, which is that the rents have to equal 1% of the purchase price at minimum. So the example here, you buy a house for $170,000, the rent has to be $1,700 or it doesn't work. What was the name? You mean biggerpockets.com, Tess?
Yeah.
No, it said the real estate guys something.
The Real Estate Guys radio show.
Oh, okay,
It's like the logo is blue and white, I think. Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. I know they have it on Apple Podcasts, but yeah, Real Estate Guys radio show. Whoop.
Awesome.
So, and then the other one you're going to want to know about is the 816 rule. And there's some funny stuff on TikTok about this. But basically it's saying is if you pay 8 times the gross rent multiple, the property will cash flow. So if I'll just use quick math here. If the rent is $1,000 a month, okay, and you multiply that by 12. I'm sorry, times 8. What am I doing? So multiply that times 8 is 8,000, or excuse me, if the property is 80,000, it will cash flow. If the property is 120,000, it won't. If you multiply the rent, the gross rent between 8 and 16, you're betting on appreciation. It's going to be a really, really, really tight investment. And then if you go 16 or more, I think the guy on TikTok said you bought yourself a job. You're going to have a hard time getting cash flow, and you better get appreciation on that part. That would be something like in San Francisco or South Dallas or someplace that's really, really growing fast, that you would be able to see your return. I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs barking. That's all I have right now. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them now.
Where do you see
I
the
was
most
close.
growth?
I said 25, 30 minutes.
Where do you see the most growth for like the newbie buyers, the newbie investors? Are they looking for like older homes? Are they looking for turnkey? What are you finding?
Well, that's going to be what's the most affordable to them. I think anyone who's willing, yes, I will share the spreadsheet with you, but I will tell you that it does say it's copyrighted. So don't like share it with a lot of people. I can, and it's got my name on it, so please don't get me in trouble, but for your own purposes, feel free. You might know it's not that complicated. If you know someone who's really good at spreadsheets, they might be able to duplicate it for you. I'm just not good at it. Your question, Bob, was
What
if
do
they're
you find
willing
most
to,
people are looking for right now?
well, everybody wants new construction that cash flows. It won't happen. But if you're willing to buy something that you can do a little bit of work for and maximize the rents, and especially as realtors, you're going to be able to have first line. If you personally want to invest, there's always going to be someone who doesn't want people going through their house, that doesn't want to, they don't want to do the work that it takes to fix it up. Right now we have a property that the sale fell through. It was listed for $285 because it's dated as all get out, and the appraisal came back at $319,000. So that's a good place to go in and get some instant equity and buy it and resell it. So if you can get someone to take that risk with you, you'll do fine. The problem is if they have to be local for that, absolutely. Or they have to have someone local who's going to be doing the work. And it's tough to make it cash flow if you're not going to be doing the sweat equity part yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a quick question. What if someone who says that they're an investor call you, but they want you to kind of do all their numbers for them? Have you had that?
All the time. I mean, I wouldn't do a full-on pro forma. I would ask if someone is selling a 12-plex or greater, they should have the pro forma set up just as an investor, but that's typically not something that their realtor would do unless they're managing a whole portfolio. You can plug in the information, but I would find a less aggressive one. I mean, you only want to fill out the pro forma if you're going to be the syndicator, essentially. But yes, I do that spreadsheet for all of my investors. I have one that's a little bit more sophisticated, but not ridiculous. But I like this one much better. But yeah, it's not out of the realm to ask people to do it for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, could you put your slide up again real quick?
Yes, I
Thank you so
will.
much.
On my TikTok, I pretty much talk about investment properties and my dogs mostly. But if you guys ever have any question, for sure, texting me is always the best way. I'm not Jason Pantana that says DM me on Instagram. I don't spend my time there, but if you text me, I'll absolutely, or you can ask Bob, I'll answer it.
What
I
percentage?
do think that, go ahead.
What percentage of your business, because you pretty much own your town up there, Vermillion, what percentage of people you're working with are investors versus people just buying a home to live in?
Well, my community is 57% rentals. because we're a college town and we're really small. There's 2,200 houses in town and 57% of them are rentals. So I deal with an inordinate amount of investors. At my office in Sioux Falls, we have a few. I would say up there it's more like 10%, but here it's better than 30. But I love it because you never know that. I mean, people will call me every day and say, hey, is there anything up there I need to buy? Or, hey, I think I can sell this one and you know, do better. Or, you know, there is a phrase that I didn't put on here that's called return on equity. And at some point, if you've got so much money, let's just say you had $70,000 of equity in a property and you're still getting that same $1,000 a month rent. Well, you've got $70,000 sitting there that you could then put a nice chunk down payment on a much bigger property and use it and make more than $1,000 a month. So you have to look at some point when you've got so much equity, taking out like a HELOC on the property, because again, it's not out of your pocket. The tenants are paying the rent. And then you can take that money and buy another property. So what I've been doing lately with my investors is looking back at, you know, when because they usually will tell me if they've refinanced back in, you know, last year when it was really cheap. But they'll usually tell me when they refinance, and I can go back and say, hey, you bought this property 11 years ago. You've been paying down on it. It's appreciated this much. So it's like doing a super CMA is what I would call it. And so you've got $60,000 worth of equity sitting there. What if you took out an equity loan on the property and then you went and bought this property? You would more than make up, as long as, so let's just say the interest rate is 6% on the equity loan, as long as, or on the house you're buying, as long as it's doing better than that, than the equity loan price. You want to make sure if it costs you 6% to take out the HELOC, you got to make way more than that. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm not being articulate.
No,
with that.
no, it makes absolute sense. When I got in this business, I helped 3 tenants find a property. Turns out all 3 tenants were renting a property from a very specific landlord who owned 183 properties in Texas. 82 of them were in Houston. Suddenly, I became his agent because I brought him 3 tenants. Every month, I would sit down and look at properties. Every property that he had had for at least 5 to 7 years. The last time it was refinanced, so he could figure out how much people. Every month he's pulling 60 to 80K and just refinance cash in his pocket. He wasn't going to buy any more properties. Every month, 60 to 80K, he would just refinance, put cash in his pocket, tax free.
Yeah, so that's I'm glad you brought that up. So when you talk about your investment goals, my husband and I have 11 places, and a couple of them are duplexes, but you know, whatever. And you know, I figured how much money I would need to have in like a money market account or, you know, a 401k to kick off the same amount of money that I'm going to be, when they're free and clear, paying me. And it was like, I would have to have $4 million saved. Well, anyone who knows me at all, never going to have $4 million saved, ever. Never going to happen. So for me, this is my investment strategy. And so if, like you said, if I wanted to, when they're all paid for, every year I can take out, let's just say a $200,000 loan, and it's tax-free, or, you know, a HELOC, it's tax-free, and my tenants are paying it back. So it's not taxable income, and my tenants are paying back the debt, and I get to write off the interest on that loan.
Yeah, and the loan is an expense.
Right.
And you don't, you know, so some of my landlords, what they like to do, they like to mortgage it to the hilt. They don't like to make money. They don't like to make money. They're not looking for cash flow, especially my inner city people. They are looking for the property value to go up. That 1% rule is great for the suburbs, but in the city, they're okay with you know, having a little bit of a negative cash flow because the appreciation goes up a lot faster, and they have cash to handle themselves, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, David Green, who's a KW agent out in San Francisco, who's the head guy at Bigger Pockets on the podcast. It's Green with an E at the end if you're looking for him. He wrote a book about long distance investing. That's great. But he also talks a lot about that very point that you're talking about. And when you buy property in San Francisco, it's probably not going to be a cash flowing property. You're probably you might have to pay in, but he looks at the upside of the appreciation, and he's done really well doing that. So if you find that's why every time they have the top 10 places to buy in 2023, I think I did an Instagram post about that when we were at Summit. And those are the places you want to be looking at, because if they're going to explode, and then the appreciation will be there for you. So at some point you have to jump on the train, and so do your buyers. I had a buyer who looked at an apartment complex. It had a 7% cap rate. It was absolutely nice. It was like 8 years old. It was the perfect time to buy it. And he spreadsheeted himself to death. He just was like, nope, I can't. I'm like, at some point you're going to have to get on the train and get going. I think at that time it was $1.2 million. It's easily worth $4 million now. Easily. And that was 6 years ago. I mean, what an opportunity he missed just because he thought it was too tight at the beginning. So when you get into those big numbers, you have to take a little bit more risk, I guess. But
are there any lenders? Are there any, I guess, what do you call it? Creative lenders out there for people who are looking to get into investing?
Yeah, there's tons of them. And you'll find a ton of them on the Bigger Pockets has a really great Facebook page as well. But there's all kinds of new avenues. The hard money lenders are what you're talking about, and they're expensive. They'll charge you, up to 20% to have, because the idea is, if you've all heard of the BRRRR strategy, the buy, rent, rehab, something and repeat, I can't remember what it is. But if you buy a house for $70,000, but houses in the neighborhood go for $200,000, and you put $30,000 into it, so you've got $100,000, you can cash it out and refinance it. And so if someone lent you $20,000 to buy that property in hard money, you can pay back that $20,000 when you refinance it with the new appraisal. So that's how they get that done.
Michelle, say that again for me, please. What did you say?
So if let's just say you wanted to buy a property for $70,000, excuse me, and the bank is requiring $20,000 down, and you have no cash, or you don't want to deplete your cash because you're doing 3 of them at once.
Right.
So you can go to a hard money lender. They will lend you the $20,000, and they'll lend it to you they will lend it to you at a much higher rate than the bank would.
Right.
And so you've got that money down. Then you're going to spend $30,000 rehabbing it. But then you have it reevaluated or reappraised after you're done. And the house appraises for $250,000 because you put in new carpet and you did all the things and made it beautiful. Then I just did this with a property. And so then you don't have to refinance it at 250, but you could refinance it so that all the money that you have into it is gone. So if you wanted to refinance it at 120,000, you've got $20,000 in cash, so you can go buy the next deal. You've paid back your hard money lender, and now you've got traditional financing, and you can amortize it over however many years.
Got it. So my question to you is this: could you actually do a HELOC on a non-owner occupied or investment property?
It depends on your bank, but yes, it depends on how you own it, and it depends on your bank. But there are banks that will let you do it.
Okay, that's good.
What some people end up doing, the cheater way to do it, and I'm sure that's probably how Leslie's person is doing it, is they end up creating like a holding company, and then the holding company owns all of the properties. And then what they can do is do it as like a business line of credit.
Yes. Okay, that's good.
Yep. And I will tell you, if any of you endeavor to take on any of these things, it is the best clickbait in the world. I did one. My client did not want to put the house on the market. I bought it. It was an absolute hoarder situation. Her husband died in the house. It was a mess. And I went through and asked people, what should I do with this? Which tile should I use? And it was I got more followers and more likes and more, and if you can actually mention the product, like Mannington carpet or, LG appliances, and tag them in the post, it's ridiculous. So good.
What's the best time to call you? I have some few questions for you. Because
any day but Monday. Monday is when I coach. So
What would?
Tuesdays and Thursdays are always better, but if you text me first, I'll tell you if
Okay.
I'm free or not.
I like to pick your
Yep.
brains. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is excellent.
It's such a great opportunity to get repeat business. I mean, Jessica can tell you, it's like the crux of her business, and it's, you know, I love it because they don't have most of them have no emotion about it at all. I've got a client in Florida, and she got hooked up with one of those companies that are writing, you know, they're buying like 40 houses a day kind of thing. And they want her to write 10 to 20 offers a week. So if you can get your brand to be known as someone who is articulate in this space and knows a little bit about investing, and you put it on social media, you're going to open yourself up to a whole other level of business. I bought a house, I put up there, and I'm sneaky about it. Anyone who's my clients heard me tell this story, but I said, this house it's ugly, it needs to be painted. And I said to everyone, what color should I paint it? And I put up a couple samples, and I mean, I think it had like 200 comments on it. And then at the bottom of the post, of the original post with the picture, I said, you know, these rental properties aren't without work, but they can be a game changer in your retirement. And I had 2 people text me and message me and say, I really want to do this. How can you help me? So.
Do you talk to me about property management? What are the headaches of actually having, to use the term you don't like, having 15 doors that you're responsible for?
Right. It was never part of my plan to do it. I have 2 property managers now, and I think we're at 250 doors. I hate saying that, but 250 units. The number one thing I would do is never, ever, ever, ever name your property management company after your name or your real estate company's name.
And
Because
why is that?
anytime someone reviews it, because we're Maloney Real Estate and Property Management, and if you evict a tenant, they're going to go on and they're going to review you. And of course, it's their fault and it's not yours, but they give you a negative review and then it affects your reviews. So don't ever do that. You need special insurance. There's all sorts of fair housing things you need to be aware of above and beyond the normal stuff. But, you know, it's a great way to, again, increase your income, and it's steady Eddie. So it's even on the, you know, December, January, February, I still make the same amount of money off property management that I do in the busy time at real estate. So once you get ours is very seasonal because of our university, but once you get through the bulk of the lease up, which might be the summer in your area, then really it's just a matter of handling the maintenance part. And we use a software called Buildium, and they're great at like doing the entry level stuff all the way up to 1,000 units. So you just have to keep paying more, but it's got like an owner portal so that the owner can go online and they can get their profit and loss and all the tax stuff they need. So you don't have to deal with all that paperwork. And then the tenants can go on there and submit like a work order. So it's a really good system.
Okay.
What was that system again? You cut out on me.
Sure. It's called Buildium, Buildium, Buildium.com.
I have small town, middle of nowhere, Montana. I don't see a lot of investors coming through. One agent in town that's his niche. And so he gets the clients. But personally, to purchase 2 more properties this year. Do you have any tips for an agent like me that wants to in part use my license to benefit myself so that my husband and I can have a cash flow retirement?
Start analyzing deals right now.
Yeah.
I would go to anywhere within like 60 miles that, you know, if there's a university, that's always great. Or a manufacturing place, or anyone that needs workforce housing, any place like that. How many people are in your town?
About 8,000.
Okay, well, you're pretty close to me.
We
do have
a university. We do have a university. But like one came up that I really was shooting for. I really wanted it, and I was analyzing it. It was a 11-plex, essentially listed for 1.7. And I started working with a lender, and we couldn't make it value anymore. I couldn't even get it to cash flow until we got down to 1.2. It ended up going under contract for 1.55. cash with an out of area person.
Yep.
And
That's
and
gonna be
so
your biggest company.
so that's what kind of like, so it sounds like I don't have to necessarily have them cash flow right now if I'm willing to do some rehab. The one I own, I got really lucky with. He was a friend of the family, gave us a really great cash flow since day one. But yeah, so if you have any, so start
Sure.
analyzing right now. I analyze quite a bit, but we don't get a lot.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I would drive around and look at everybody that's got a for rent sign in the yard. That's where I'd start. If they've got a
Okay.
for rent sign in the yard and you're in a university town, it's either needs repair or they just went through the most horrible termite toilet tenant problem that you've ever seen. And they're probably this close to saying, screw this thing, I'm done. And those are the people you like. So I would call every for rent sign and say, I don't have a tenant for you. If I do, I'll let you know, but I was wondering if you'd be interested in selling or talking about it. My husband and I usually, if it's like a mom and pop kind of person that owns it, it usually works to say, my husband and I are trying to, build up our portfolio a little bit and we're wanting to get into something different than stocks. And we were wondering if you would be interested in talking about selling it. And always, of course, let them know you're a realtor, but yeah, it works. That I've gotten a couple properties like that.
Michelle,
I love it.
to be a property manager or doing property management, do you have to be a licensed broker?
In my state, when you have a real estate license, you are qualified to do property management. If you want to own a property management company, then I would suggest there's in our state, there's a 15-hour class, but you can also, if you really want to go for it, you can go for your CPM, which I think is a designation through NAR, which is a certified property manager.
Okay.
That's can get expensive. I mean, the classes I was taking through IREM were, I think, $500 a class.
Oh,
Can I hop in there and suggest that you check your state rules and talk to your broker?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I know in Texas, if there's an escrow account for deposits that have to be kept separate from your running, your operating money, the broker has to hold that account, not the salesperson. So always check your state rules because we're not going to be here when you get in trouble.
Right.
So
And-
don't
and
be like, well, Michelle told me I should. No, go check your state rules.
No. Yeah.
See, and in my state, go ahead.
I'm in California.
Go ahead.
I'm in
So
California.
in my state, all of my tenants have to sign this is a personal transaction document so that my broker doesn't have liability for my tenant.
Got it.
Oh, because you own the property?
Yes, because
Okay,
I own the
that's-
property.
That makes sense.
That's different than what she's talking about, but
Gotcha.
Correct.
Sorry, broker hat came on there for a minute. I'm like, stop.
What was that?
Yeah.
again? Build something that you talked about, Michelle?
Buildium. Yep. Like the
That
word
word.
build and then IUM.com. Buildium.com.
Okay. Buildium.com. Thank you.
Yeah. We love it. There's other ones that, bigger companies will use, but I've talked to these people and their customer support's really good. And like I said, we started when we had 20 units and it worked for us then. It wasn't overly expensive. And now we charge what they charge us back to the landlord per unit. So it's like $2.20 a unit, I think.
Are we gonna get a copy of this recording? I love it. I mean, it's very important.
Bob, are you recording it?
Yes.
Okay, then yes.
Bob.
And if anyone, I'll give Bob my slides, and if anybody wants my slides, I'll tell you what, I'll email Bob my slides and that spreadsheet.
Uh-huh.
And then Bob can forward it to all the people who registered. As long as you promise
Forward
me
it to
you will
your
not
coaches and your
distribute
coaches can
that
forward it.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
What's
I'll forward
that?
it to your coaches. I'll forward it to your coaches.
Okay, perfect.
There are 7 or 6 or 7 coaches who are collaborating on these classes.
Okay.
And so this is our second one. So thank you all for being part of it. And we will send the slides to your coaches and your coaches can forward them out. So.
Let's do it again. Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's give Michelle our love. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
It was awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you,
Good to
Michelle.
see all your faces again.
Everybody have a great weekend.
You too.